Welcome to a spark of awareness. We live in a time where we are constantly being stimulated, prompted by systems, by algorithms, by AI. But when we outsource our answers, we slowly give away our authority, our inner voice, our self-mastery. Conscious leadership has no shortcut, no hack, and it can only begin from within. It is the courage to stop escaping and to sit with what's alive and present inside, even when it's very uncomfortable. But that's where growth is. And this podcast is a space for that. This podcast is an evolution. And every week, I will share a 15-minute human prompt, live, non-performative. It is a moment of reflection drawn from my work in conscious leadership, from the journeys of the leaders I coach and accompany, and from what is moving in a collective film of what is humanity and leadership. I am Sophie, a conscious leadership coach and guide of transformation. I support leaders who are crossing the threshold right now from the old system of leadership, a legacy, into a deeper, more conscious way of being. If the traditional model no longer resonates, know that you are not alone, and that is your weekly practice. This is your time with your inner world. This is your weekly spark of awareness. Welcome. Welcome to a new episode of Spark of Awareness. And continuing our series on emotions, we are not going to skip that one because it's an emotion that is very present at work and in leadership. It is fear. And yes, we already touched on it at a previous episode around the 5 self-sabotage patterns of a leader. So I encourage you to go back to that episode as I laid out the ground around the topic of fear-driven decision. I want to talk more about today on the emotion of fear. Fear is the most dominant emotion at work, in our lives, in the world right now even. This is, in a way, the emotion at the polar opposite of love. When we are in fear, we are not in love. We are not loving. We are not opening our heart. We are not seeing what's there. We are projecting what is lacking, what is there to get to us, what is there to kill us, what is there to make us feel unsafe. And it's no surprise when you see the kind of information that circulate every day. You open the news, the media, everything is there to create fear. Fear of a war, fear of how the world is going bad. You open marketing channels, social media, marketing builds a lot on fear. Fear of not being young, fear of not being beautiful, fear of not being loved, fear of being overweight. The list is long. So all of that to say, fear is very present in our daily life. And when it's not brought to light, and when we are not aware that we are stimulated by constant fear, then we make many decisions that are fear-based. There are decisions, very important decisions that are made about how much money do we raise? Where are we going to spend that money? What are we creating? What is that we're putting in the hands of consumers? What is the impact on consumers? How are we treating the people in the organization? Those decisions will create even more damages in the products you create, in the teams you create, and in your own life. A lot of stress, burnout, is also the result of a lot of fear happening in our environment. When we stop living our truth, speaking our truth, having the courage to stand for ourselves and start to swallow, because of fear of being rejected, not accepted, isolated, unsafe again. And I want to name also what sometimes we confuse between fear and instinct. Because a lot of decision, when people, I see founders saying we have made that decision out of instinct. And when we work in coaching together, I can see that it's not instinct, it's fear. Fear is immediate. It has to happen now. There's a kind of some sort of momentum, urgency. When you have urgency, it is very likely tied to fear. If you can feel it, it's like it needs to happen. And if it does not happen, something terrible will happen. So as a contrast, intuition is quieter. If you don't act on it, is it still alive tomorrow, the day after? Is it still like a quiet knowing, listening, something that is calling you, telling you there's something to get your attention? And that's very different from fear. So don't confuse what you think is instinct with fear. And it might be fear if you are in urgency or there's a contraction in your body and then you feel you need to act on it. It's fear. Where is fear located in the body? Fear is usually either it's tied to contraction on the upper body. So it could be a shorter breath at the level of the lungs, of the chest, contraction again. It's in the belly. But it's a contraction. So you can maybe have a sense of where, when you are in fear, what's happening in your body. Can you observe it? Can you locate it? And when you identify fear, and usually the fears are around the common things. I'm afraid to be seen. If I'm seen and if I'm judged, if I'm rejected, I'm going to be isolated. I'm afraid to be rejected, socially excluded from a tribe. I'm afraid of consequences, that this is going to ruin me. I'm going to lose a lot of money. I'm going to be unsafe. I have heard those fears many times, although the action is maybe not related to that outcome. I have a fear of dying. So all those fears are all around death. Be clear, okay, there's something I'm afraid of. It's not going to lead me to death, but this is what is happening in the background in my body. So with fear, you sit with it, you digest it in your body. And I love fear. I'm actually working a lot with fear. That's my compass, because it's your teacher. Fear, when especially it's mental, and the stories we tell ourselves, projection, it's mental, and it's there to show you the path of your growth. Because if you overcome past that hurdle of discomfort, of pain, of the unknown, you're going to grow. So fear is always there to ask for a movement, an action. I'm asking you, if you are dealing with fear, what is the action you should do? And not out of fear, but an action that is there to teach you something. So I want to give an example of a recent fear. I was looking away, actually. I have had many fears in my journey. I have shared them in previous episodes, but that is like the most recent one and alive. I've been developing very well my business with Orin, my coaching, and I started to formulate a vision that started to scare me. Actually, there are two parts of the vision. One was scaling, expanding Orin, doing retreats in other places with other people, welcoming more people at the retreat. The fear was, can I hold this work? If I start to scale, I'm going to lose myself, feel stressed, and I'm going to fall into the same patterns again as when I was working in corporate. So I don't want to scale, I don't want to grow. That's not the right answer, of course. And so I had to break it down and then look at, okay, is this true? How will I know this is true? I won't know if this is true if I don't go there. So I started to expand the work. I started to go online, teaching masterclass, expand in the US, and then check in with myself again in my body. Can I contain it? Can I hold it? Can I grow with it? So far, I can. And if I didn't allow myself to try even the first step, I would still be thinking about it and stay small. So here it's inviting always, when you have a fear, to look at it. What is the fear about? Only experience will tell, and I will grow. And now I can see a trajectory where I'm growing the business little by little to a 7-figure business. I'm on that trajectory. I'm taking my time. I don't need to do it in the next month. It will take a few years, and I'm doing it step by step, integrating at the pace so I don't burn out. So the fear was correct to show me, yes, go there, but without rushing. And the other fear recently was, I had a vision to create actually a space, a physical space in nature, a school of consciousness, teaching leaders, teaching facilitators on how to hold spaces for transformation. And I can see it in 10 years. This is going to happen. It's deep in my soul, it's deep in my heart. I want to do it, but I'm so scared of doing it, because that means I need to move, I need to build a place, I need to find a land. How am I going to do it? My mind is going too far already, even before I started. So again, I faced my fears, I sat with it. Yes, I want to do it. What is the first step? First step, I mapped the plan. First step is to talk about it. I started to talk about it with partners, collaborators, maybe looking at lands. Okay, that's the first good step. And then from there, once I have this, I can unlock the other step and the other step and the other step. So fear is really calling for attention to break a very big monster problem into smaller tasks, so you can keep moving forward and grow. So some exercise I can recommend, I will put it in the show notes, is a fear setting journaling. I have shared it in a previous episode, but basically you map out your fears. What are they about? How are you going to prevent them? How are you going to mitigate them? How will you know if it's true? And as a reminder, practice. And that's the main practice that any leader should have. That's one that makes the difference between the ones who grow and the ones who stagnate. How do you respond to your fear? What is the protocol? What are the steps that happen in you, out of you, when you are facing fears? That's the main thing you can control, and that's the thing to work on. So journal this. How do you respond to fear? And if you're not happy with that answer, what will you change? All right. There's a lot about fear. And since we have already talked about it at the previous episode on sabotage patterns, we're going to close this session today with a short meditation as usual. So I'm inviting you to close your eyes, and I'm activating myself by the topic of fear, as you can hear in my voice and energy. So I'm going to regulate myself. Deep inhale through the nose. And exhaling through the mouth. And keep inhaling through the nose. And exhaling through the mouth. And as you stand, you can anchor your 2 feet on the ground and feel your foot really and your legs a bit loose, really anchored in the ground. And feel your whole body. And I am inviting you to place your right hand on the belly and the other hand on your chest. And you keep breathing and you feel everything moving in your body through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And if you feel some contraction, some tension in your chest, as you slow down your breathing, notice how those tension and those contractions are quieting, getting less loud, a bit calmer. Keep breathing. As you keep breathing, you start to anchor and feel more heaviness in your legs, anchoring And breathing through your heart space and clearing any tension in your lungs, in your heart. Breathing through it. And one last time for a deep breathing together. So deep inhale through the nose. And you hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale slowly through the mouth. And feel your whole body relaxing. And feel how you are anchored and centered again, like a solid trunk. And calm and regulated. So that's it for today. Closing this series on at least what we label negative emotions at work. But next week, I'm going to touch on the last emotion I really want to touch on. And that's one also that we don't talk about at work, but it should be more present. Should be more present in our lives, in our leadership. It's the emotion of love. It's the feeling of love. And yes, it's good to be connected to it because that's going to be your medicine when you are lost or in panic, in stress. So I'll save that for the next time. And until then, I wish you a beautiful week. Thank you for tuning in into this weekly reflection, a weekly spark of awareness. After this episode, I invite you to take a few moments with yourself, even just 15 minutes to sit with what resonated, to breathe, and to notice what is shifting inside. This is a practice, a discipline of presence, truth, and self-connection. If this work speaks to you, I accompany leaders in one-on-one journeys and group experiences of transformation, supporting them as they cross the threshold into a truer and freer way of leading and living. If you feel called to explore this path, I would love to hear your story, and let's connect. Sending you love and courage, and have a great week ahead. This is my spark of awareness.